Are these the NextGen event pros? I think I'm looking at. I think so. I'm excited. I'm Lynn Edwards. I'm the founder of Proper Planning, and I'm excited to be here with you today and to talk about maybe your career path and things that we've learned and can share and tips and ideas about how to continue to grow into the rock stars that you probably already are, but just continue that path. And I'm super excited to have with us Hillary Laney with EVIA and TPN. Is that how you say it right now?
TPN plus EVIA.
TPM plus EVIA. And Hillary's been in the industry a long time. I've been in lots longer. I could be her mom probably. But she's a rock star, and we both have had long and productive careers as event pros, and hopefully we have some great gems to share with you today to help you in your growth. How many people in the room have been in the industry less than 3 years? Ooh, okay, less than 3? 5 to 10? Oh, we got those middle rock stars. Okay, awesome. 10 plus. And we got the EVA, TPN, rock
It's my
stars.
fan club.
You guys can join. Yes, I said it's like a wedding. It's like bride or groom. Here's the Hillary section. You guys are now the Lynn section. Just so you know. Shout when I ask those questions. But super excited. You guys having a good event show? Did you guys love that session this morning? Like how many electeds on the stage saying the word events was like awesome. So hopefully you're making great connections, and we're going to go into that a little bit. But what do you love most about being an event pro?
Oh God, everything. I mean, for me, I'm a connector. I'm a human connector. I feed off relationships. And so I entered this industry. Well, first I started in the services industry. That's how I kind of made my way when I was younger. So I worked in restaurants, which if any of you have worked in the services industry, you know it's pretty similar to the event industry. You work hard, you play hard. And so I always, as soon as I got into the event industry at a young age, I was 24 when I started working in events. And I just immediately fell in love with it because it was all about not only in my career and the people I was working with, establishing those relationships, the willingness to work late, long days, into the night, trying to get work done and partnering on that. But the whole objective was to connect the audience with the brand, the customer, and with each other. And so it just, at my core, has always been something that I've enjoyed and loved. It just kind of comes naturally. But
It's a passion, and when it gets in your blood, it's in there. It's like the restaurant business or whatever else. When you're passionate about delivering great guest experience, high customer service, and also the creative planning process, it gets in your blood. I've been doing that 30 years. Came up through the hotel business, then came over to the convention center business, the convention and visitor bureau business, and I've had my own company for 24 years. So I always joke I can't keep a job, but what's interesting is I've had a lot of different roles in this industry, which has made me a really interesting perspective, maybe have given me an interesting perspective because I've been on what they call the supplier side, and I've been on the planner side for so long that I tell all those suppliers I'm either your worst nightmare or the easiest one to work with because I get how you do your work as well. But it's a true passion. I remember booking my first event in a college, conference coordinator role, and I'm doing the same thing I do today that I did when I was 20 in
nothing's
college.
changed.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes nothing's changed. But so some questions about like your career pathing, and I want to make sure this is interactive, you guys. So we're going to leave lots of time for Q&A. There's a mic in the back, or you can just yell it out and we'll repeat it. But this is a chance for you to talk to two seasoned event professionals and find out what we did that worked, what didn't work, things we would try to teach you, our best practices on, really establishing yourself in the industry. So what do you think as far as things that you did when you got started in the industry that really propelled your career?
Yeah. So as I said, I started at a pretty young age. I was 24, and I didn't actually have any schooling for it. And it was my dad's company actually, and I started working for him. So everything I did, I learned on the job. One of the first things that I learned through my dad is the relationship piece and how critical it is to, when you meet people throughout your career, and it's important that you don't consider, I'm not just talking about customers or the executive role or anything like that. It's literally anyone you come across at any stage in their career because you don't know where they're going to end up. It's important that you truly get to know that person. I learned it took time, but I learned how to get to a place with people as I would get to know them because networking can sometimes feel a little uncomfortable, a bit superficial, that interaction right out of the gate. And so over time, I kind of learned that if you go into those situations as you're meeting people and really the motive is to figure out how can you help them, it's not really about the sale or, how are they going to get me to this next place. It's truly about, which I'm motivated by naturally, but I think in the business world, we tend to get in this frame of mind that if we're going to do that, it's about the business part of it. But really at the end of the day, you're just helping people solve their problems, right? So I would make sure that as I'm meeting people and building those relationships that I'm starting to understand what is it that they need and how can I help them? And then as that relationship builds and develops, you get those opportunities to hopefully work together long term. And I think learning that early on helped me get to a place a lot quicker of, you know, getting to know that landscape so that I knew exactly where I fit into it and how to sort of get, I guess, our business, because it was pretty small at the time, and grow that company through those relationships and, over time. But it takes time, because for it to be authentic and real, you have to invest in it. And you can't just think, I'm going to meet this person, hopefully shake their hand, and something's going to happen from that. Here I am, almost 20 years. Actually just celebrated 19 years yesterday. So I'm almost at 20 years, and I'm looking back on all these 20 years, and I'm thinking, there's people who call me today that I met 15 years ago that I never would have imagined I could have had an opportunity to work with. But because I put in that little bit more of getting to know them at the personal level and establishing a real relationship with them, it does come back around eventually. So I think it's really critical.
I think so too. And it's interesting generationally. It'll be interesting to watch how you guys develop your careers because the network or networking, which seems to be kind of has a negative connotation where a lot of the relationships are built behind a screen or whatever. Back in the day, really the only way to advance yourself and your company was to get in front of people and create that connection. Whereas now, if we're involved, if we're connected on LinkedIn, are we connected? Are you in my network? Would I consider that? Those are things that you're going to have to weigh. I just had the opportunity to meet someone that I had been in touch with as an event planner out of New York. Talked online, LinkedIn. We did a Zoom call. She wanted some advice about her as a event planning company owner. And I just met her in New York. I mean, it's been probably 3 years, and it was crazy. When I actually saw her in person, I was like, we have developed a relationship. So it's doable. It's doable to create I think, a authentic connection through other methods, but it really is no better way than to get to things like this show and to shake hands and say hi and tell your story. They say the elevator pitch, but really understanding what is your unique offering in this business. I'm Lynn and we make memories. Oh, how do you do that? Whatever that pitch is, to really understand who you are and how do you distinguish yourself in the mass of people that people will understand. Oh, I met somebody at this show that did that, and let me call them. And I think you weather some storms, and these people are your army or your community, and you go through some battles, and that strengthens that relationship for sure. We know that firsthand. But you touched on something interesting about how people come into this event business is very unique, and there's not a lot of people that have taken a direct path for education and directly into a professional role. People come from all different walks of life: marketing, PR, nonprofit world. I was an admin, then I planned the annual offsite, so now I'm more of an event professional. So I guess I would just encourage all of you that it's not required to have a certain educational checkbox in this industry. We're not performing brain surgery, right? So we don't need a super technical skill, but anything that you're taking in school or have taken, marketing, any business acumen that you have taken will serve you in this industry. And then it's essentially on the job training, because everybody in this industry does something a little different. They have their own way, they do a different role. Someone asked yesterday in the student boot camp, like, do I need to, I look at the job listings and I don't know if I know all the technical. I'm like, I don't either. Been doing it for 30 years, don't know all the technical. So I think it's something where if you're a quick study and you have great mentorship in learning your skill set, if you create opportunities for you to be known in the industry. I really believe it's not the saying, it's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I believe it's who you know that knows you're awesome at what you do. And that's what your network is. If you ask people, do you know her? Oh, I've seen her work on this project, or I know they did this for their event, or I know that she's good at what she does. And it's who you know that puts those tentacles out, that knows you're good at it. So if you get an opportunity to volunteer, to onboard, to shadow, to pick a mentor, do all of those things, because again, you're going to learn those skills from those people, not necessarily at school.
I would also add to that something I thought of, putting yourself out there, which I know is not always the easiest thing to do, but that risk of getting in that uncomfortable mode, eventually you get used to it. So you can put it into practice. Try it again and again. It may not feel great the first few times. It does get easier, I promise. I have a great example, a little story. It's like one of my highlights of my career. This was in 2015, well, let me back up. In 2014, my company was invited to be part of an RFP for Dreamforce, to come in and capture all the content, do live streaming, provide the digital experience. That's what Evia has done for 30 years. I know we all do it now because of the pandemic, but for many years, we were really one of maybe 4 companies that were doing it on a regular basis. And so, we participated in this RFP, and I just remember like the page submissions at the beginning. It's Salesforce, so they went way above and beyond. And the first like 3 pages was just all about their culture, their brand, how critical it was that whatever vendors they bring in aligned with all their company values. And so right away, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be part of this. And so we ended up, putting our best foot forward. We did not win the RFP, unfortunately, but I left that experience just determined to win Salesforce as a client. And so we stuck to it. And that piece I was telling you about earlier, about you never know who you're going to meet and how they might help you later. In 2016, I participated in a panel at NAB, and after the panel, I got off stage, and this woman came up who was in the news industry. She had been an anchor for a while down in the Southwest region, and kind of throughout her experience doing that, she ended up going from in front of the camera to behind the scenes, and really loved that experience of being more on the production side of it. And she came up and introduced herself. She was originally from Seattle. She knew that's where I was based. And so she just said, hey, I'm looking to move back. My mom is fallen ill. I need a reason, to come back to the Seattle region. She said, any chance that you've got openings at your company or know people that might be looking for someone? So we kind of kept in touch, and it was a random thing. I wasn't hiring at the time, but I thought, let's shake hands, keep in touch, whatever might happen. Well, turns out she knew someone named Dan Darcy, who's a really high up executive at Salesforce. And my team and I were working on a strategy around how to win over Salesforce. And so we did all this LinkedIn research. Who do we know? I'm sure everyone's kind of done this in some capacity. Let's reach out, message them, figure this out. Turns out this woman who came up to me knew him personally. And so I just put myself out there. I was so nervous. I didn't know what to expect, if she was just going to turn me off or brush me off, because sometimes that feels not, authentic, right? And so she said, no problem. I'm happy to do it. So she made the introduction to this gentleman, Dan Darcy, who has a direct connection into Mark Benioff, and he took a call with me. So this whole thing turned into me flying down to San Francisco, having a meeting directly with Dan Darcy about Dreamforce, and we ended up winning that event. We did Dreamforce in 2019, and it was just because of that one relationship with this woman, and I went after it, and I didn't know what was going to happen, but I think it takes you have to be willing, especially in our industry, there's so much noise. And to your point about like, how do you stand out and find that uniqueness? It's not just about your education, it's about what are you willing to do? Because if you think about it, your clients are hiring you to take those risks on their behalf, anyways, right? So if they see that you're willing to do that, they're going to be more open to working with you, I think.
I totally agree. I think not only you never know, you have to ask, right? You're not going to get the answer if you don't ask, but you also, it's, you don't know when they're going to be able to support you, who you meet. But also, I think that what's really important is as you go forward, you don't burn any bridges with people. You know, you really try to keep the highest integrity and the highest authentic relationship, because this is a crazy business and you're going to have to say I'm sorry, and you're going to have to say, oh, you know, we didn't deliver on that. And so I think like any other relationship, your industry relationships need to be handled with care, and they need to be authentic. And again, you're going to bump into people, whether it's a vendor or whether it's a coworker, and you just want to keep the highest kind of for yourself, the highest regard of a professional status and someone that they can know, like, trust, and do business with. Um, I think the other thing is the state associations or the trade associations. You know, I remember the first time I went to a Meeting Professionals International event, and I literally was looking around going, I didn't even know there was other event professionals. I mean, I feel like I'm on an island. No one does this for a living. I mean, the lady next to me told me she planned her daughter's wedding, so I guess she's an event prof. And you know, it was like that kind of thing. And I got in there and I felt so validated. There was such legitimate, you are an event professional. Here's a curriculum for you to continue to learn. Here's your peers. We do advocacy on behalf of everybody who is in the event industry. You find your tribe, right? You find your people. And when you go to these industry associations, it's a playground for you to grow your skill set and get to know people that know you're good at what you do. So, you know, when you join an organization, there's a thing called a postage stamp member or something. Of course, that's dating myself, but postage stamp member, meaning you just pay your dues, but you don't really do anything. But if you're going to go into those, if you make an investment, say, I'll serve on the XYZ committee. I'll do this. I'll do that. People start to learn your name. They start to see the work that you do, and they know it's good, and they advocate for you. It's really important. I know with Meeting Professionals International, I agreed to be their communications major. That was not a skill set that I had. They sent me to a national conference for all the other communication chair people, and I was quickly realized how little I knew about it. Here's your AP style guide to write your newsletter. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but okay, bring it on. And then we created the first MPI, Washington State MPI website with Corbin Ball, like Mr. Technology of the industry, rock star. I was like, I've never, it was literally just coming online websites. But I learned so much. And again, it was a safe environment to collaborate and co-create and get to know people. And, you know, that tradition of going to an industry trade organization and going to a luncheon and having the nerve to shake a hand and say, hi, I'm Lynn. I own a planning company, or I work at this hotel, but make it meaningful. I think your point, one thing that you'd mentioned about just how can you serve the other person? I took some crazy networking class, and the guy said, try to bring value in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the conversation. So that technique is kind of crazy, but it works. Like if I literally met this gal here and I'd be like, what do you do? How do you do? And then she tells me, right? Oh, I planned the 5K. Oh, did you know there's a new app? I'm now going to give her something to try to establish this rapport. It's not creepy, but it's just a strategy. I know it sounds kind of weird. Bring value so that you get, I'm going to give something. And I have sons that are 28 and 30. They're always like, everything's so transactional. I'm like, but it's really not. It's to build this bridge where I've been doing this a long time. Hey, you should know Dave. He does 5K runs. It'd be worth a cup of coffee with him to learn. If you're just getting started, call Dave, right? So if I'm in service of you as an industry peer, that's going to build both of our networks. Does that make sense? Does that seem creepy? What's in it for me? Here's what's in it for you. If you come at it that way, then they're going to bring something back.
It's interesting though, Lynn, right? Because I think there is a balance. I find throughout stages in my career, I feel like I have overly invested in that and maybe spent too much time or energy, and then nothing really comes from it. So you have to kind of, I think it's a trial and error, because I think first and foremost, the mindset has to be right where in that giving and taking, you really do have to be in this mindset of, I'm not in this to get anything back. It'd be awesome if something came back, but that cannot be the intention because that is so clear to people, right? And so it is doing those offerings, knowing that likely nothing's going to come from it, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. But just like any budget, like line item budget, so I'm coming at this from the position of a business owner, and so if I think about like my budget items for my company, I have all these different categories, right? And you invest a certain amount in office space, you invest a certain amount in people's salaries, like all the line items, right? And of course, there's one that lines up with sales, and the sales bucket. It's time and money because you're having to give up some of your own time to be able to do that. So it's getting to a place where you understand how much time are you willing to put into it, knowing that probably 80% of the people that you invest that time in probably aren't going to end up bringing anything back to you. But I think the challenge is you don't know who of those 80% of the 100% is going to fall into that 80% bucket. So I just would, encourage you to put some thought into that and have some strategy around it so that you're not constantly giving yourself out and putting yourself out there without understanding what you're trying to get in return, because I've definitely gone overboard with that and spent too much time or money. If you're traveling to an event, if that's the way you're doing it, kind of depends on how you're approaching it. But here, we're all sitting in this room. We came to this event. Of course, there's the educational component, but I think everyone that comes to an event like this is hoping to make a contact. Whenever I come to an event like this, I have it in my mind. How many people do I want to shake hands with? How many people do I want to walk away with contact information for? And you gotta have some of that in your head as you're going into it, I think.
I think that's a solid point. And I think that, when they say, well, how do you get to a point where you can walk around the trade show and know everybody? It's like 30 years, 3 years. 30 years. I've been in a lot of trenches with a lot of these people that are in this business side by side. So it takes a while and give yourself grace and permission to grow your network, your team. I'm always amazed when I speak sometimes at the colleges, and I'll offer to let someone come and work, shadow me, or mentor. I'm open to mentorship, and I hear from 0 people. And I'm literally looking at a class of 30 brand new people that think they want to be event professionals. And I mean, I'm not that big a deal, but I'm shocked that no one takes me up on that.
I
I
would
have a
take you
lot
up
to
on
say.
it.
Come on over anytime. Bring a glass of wine. I'll tell you all I know. It'll take about 10 minutes, then we can enjoy the day. But I'm always amazed that there's no outreach about that. And I have to tell you, I was maybe not aggressive, but I took advantage. If someone opened a door for me to learn from them, I kicked that door down. I mean, there was a lady that I worked with, and I loved how she ran a meeting. I mean, so to have these people, these mentors that you're like, if I want to, if I host a meeting, I want to run it like this lady. She's efficient. She's on time. She keeps the agenda moving. Everyone is respected. That's what I want to be when I grow up. And I literally, every time in the career, I always had like, what do I want to do in 5 years? And I had my eyes set on that. Could help get me there. And again, self-serving, but let's be real. This is your career path, and if you can't come at it from a zone of I have my own back, I'm going to do what's in my best interest. I'm going to keep a portfolio of all the great things I've done. I'm going to keep a contact list of everyone I've met that I could reach out to if I needed to. These are things that you are the champion of your own career path, and you have to be your biggest advocate. And so if you're shy and you don't feel like doing that, just that's something that's going to excel you through, is to be able to have enough, nerve to go up and say hi to somebody. I want to be you when I grow up. I mean, I used to tell people that I work for, I want to have your job. I want to have your job, and then it was that idea that I was going to make this career run versus this is a job I have today. So any other advice about like career pathing and like what has served you in that journey?
Well, not that served me actually. I was gonna something you touched on earlier about the certification piece and like the education. So something I wish I would have done, which is always you want to learn from other people's mistakes, right? If you are considering getting a degree or a certification, and I know it's a time investment, it's a cost, it's all those things. I wish I would have done those things earlier on in my career. This was back in 2004 when I started, and so I think the accessibility factor of education was a little bit different than it is today. You've got so many online programs that you have access to. I think there's actually even more programs that you have access to than there were back then. They've been built over the years. And I would recommend, if you're in the early stages and you're contemplating it, do it now. If you can make it happen, because here's the thing is that as you're continuing to grow in your career and you get more customers, and say you've got maybe your own business, you're a one person show now, but you eventually decide to hire people under you, whatever that path is, you're only going to get busier, and it's only going to get harder to get those foundational tools under your belt and have them at your fingertips to apply. And I think that I could have avoided a lot of hardship and that learning on the job. Although I love the learning on the job, I think I could have avoided some pretty big mistakes along the way had I maybe taken a course on how to do that. And so
Great.
that would be a recommendation.
And you'll have to seek out what is the right designation for you based on your interests, because there are so many types of jobs you can have in this career and things that align with the certification. I want to share a couple stories about being your own advocate. When I got my degree from University of Oregon. Go Ducks up here in Husky Country. I know you guys are about that.
Boo.
But
Go
I
dogs.
changed my major from business to leisure studies, and my dad about had a heart attack. He was like, I'm like, of course, I totally fed into it. Yeah, they have like hot tub safety and lawn chair folding, and he's just like, oh my God, you're gonna be homeless. It's just so. But I was a senior, and I was getting ready to get internships. I'd just come off an internship out of Fort Devens outside of Boston, ran their tour and travel program, but I went and I wanted to go to the National Recreation Conference to try to get a job. And so I was in Boston, and this conference is in New Orleans, and I called the local university that had a leisure studies program. I said, is anybody going to New Orleans? And they said, yeah, we have a van of grad students going. I said, hold a seat for me. So I called my professor back at Oregon, and I said, if I meet you at the conference, will you pay my fee and let me work the booth to promote the Oregon Leisure Program? He's like, well, aren't you in Boston? I said, I got a ride. I'm going with these other rec people. They're crazy as I am. It's going to be amazing. So I literally hitched a ride. I mean, I pulled up with these 7 people, and we road trip to New Orleans. I went and did every interview, got a job, and got hired to go to Korea and run a rec center for the Army. Okay, so bold, crazy, yep, do it. Second thing I did is when I moved, eventually a military spouse, we moved to Savannah, Georgia. I went to a chamber convention visitor bureau luncheon, and I stood up at the luncheon and said, hi, I'm Lynn Edwards. I just moved to Savannah from Oregon. I have had 6 months of recreation training and planning stuff, and I'm here. Lucky guys, lucky hospitality community. I'm here. Who wants me? I had a job in 2 days. So I know that sounds a little crazy, but it just goes to show being your own advocate of like, how do and then I was in Georgia, and we were moving back to Yakima, and I called the convention bureau and I said, lucky you, in my fake Southern accent that I'd acquired in 4 years. I'm coming home to the Northwest, and got hired on the phone. I mean, it just really was, again, being your own advocate of like, I got mad skills. This is a small business. And if people know that I want to work in this industry, I'm going to continue to do that. When I decided to leave the supplier side and create my own meeting planning company, I opened my doors and I went to MPI and I told 5 meeting planners, I'll do anything to work for your company. I have my own company now. I have 0 clients. 0. That's how many I had. I went to one of the meeting planners' house and I stuffed envelopes for like 3 days straight. And I was like, I need a gig of my own. But those people championed me and they advanced me. And hey, I can't take this client, Lynn, but what do you take? Oh, then you do a good job. Ask that client. I'm looking forward, happy to share my name and number. Let people know I planned a great job for you, and build it that way. This is a career where it really does matter who knows that you're good at what you do. I had a young intern that I said, listen, what do you want to do in the industry? I really, really want to work at a hotel. Great. Let me make 5 calls and get you a fast track. You're going to have to get yourself there, but I can open some doors. So I guess those 2 stories are just examples. When I tell them now at 57 years old, people just like, you did what? You just called up a college and said, can I get a ride to New Orleans? I'm like, yeah. You just went to a luncheon, stood up, and lucky you, look at me, I'm here. Who wants me to work for them? Yeah. And in a very tactful, authentic, nice, sweet, Southern way. But if nobody here is going to champion you the way you're going to champion you. I guess that's the bottom line. And it's hard when you're young in the industry because you don't want to appear arrogant. And we're all out here faking it till you make it. Honestly, let me just blow up that little thing. Do you guys, when you moved into adulting, was there a moment where you're just like, oh, everybody's truly out here faking this? Nobody has their shit together. Nobody really knows what's going on. We're all doing the best we can with the information we have at the moment. That is the same way it is in a career path situation. Everybody found their way to the industry a little differently. They built the foundation and the blocks and the people that could help them advance their career. And here we are in this room. But you're in charge of that. So
I have a question for you, Lynn.
Oh Lordy. Okay. I didn't know this was a two-way interview. I thought I was Oprah and I just got to ask the question.
I'm curious, and maybe others are in the room, so you said, you're an event owner, a business owner, and you've hired lots of people over the years. And I know just from my personal relationship with you that you're great with internships and bringing people in. What do you look for? So if you're putting a position out there and, you need to hire for someone, what are some of the qualifications and characteristics that you look for when people are applying?
That is a great question. My current intern, that's a student at UW, and she's graduating in May. She's worked for me for 3 years, and she's going to have a full-time job with us the day she graduates. But that young woman will tell you it took her 7 months to get my attention. She was hopping up and down. She was in my LinkedIn. She was emailing me. She was calling me. She was texting me. Hey, don't forget about me. I'm right here. I'm Kylan. I want to be an event planner when I grow up. I mean, she was so persistent that I just had to reward that with the final meeting. And then we were off to the races. I think the most important thing is your passion for the industry. If you don't love it like I love it, it's going to be an uphill climb. If you're just like, I'm dabbling, I might also be an accountant. If you don't love it like I love it, we might not be a good match. I took an executive summary. Someone had a little online leadership test, and she said, I got some extra licenses. Will you take this? You can learn about your style. And literally like 27 pages of what it's like to work with Lynn or work for Lynn. And at the very end, it just said, be brief, be brilliant, and be gone. And I was like, I showed that to my ex-husband. Here you go. Here's the yeah, I know you probably wanted this map before we started this 20-year journey. But honestly, I need someone who's on the A team, the fast track, a quick learner, because I'm moving 100 miles an hour. So I need you to be brief. What's your deal? Oh, I got 5 bids, and we're down here in this venue. Okay, be brilliant. Bring some brilliance. I think we should go with this one, and this is why. Or I think the problem could be solved if we did this. And then go do it. So I'm not going to, and it's tough because generationally, I feel like I don't slow down long enough. I am Gen X as they come. I mean, I played basketball with a coach that, run lines till you puke. Like I'm tough as nails. You want to go to that kids camp, go bale hay and make some money. Like I got that, right? So I kind of am trying to soften my approach with this next generation of the strokes that they need, and rightfully so. I'm not being negative about that. I'm just saying there's these different styles, and I'm going 100 miles an hour. I'm like, and one of my team will come to me and they'll be like, and then it's going to be blue. And I'll be like, so instead of the be brief, I literally just go, what's the deal? It's going to be $5,000 more. Sold. We got it in the budget. Go do it. Right. So that's how I operate. So, and I would say what the skill sets that I'm looking for is, again, the passion. This is a lot of fun to be in this business. It's hard. It's not as, people think it's glamorous. I got people all the time telling me, oh, I want to be in the events business. It's so glamorous. I'm like, okay, go haul those 80 cases of apples into this trade show booth, and then we'll talk how glamorous it is with your sweaty face. But it is, so I want someone who's really on fire in their belly. I want someone who's creative and resourceful. So that be brilliant piece, you better bring it if you're on my team. I'm looking for someone who can be like, but if we turn this page upside down and we did a double run, it would cost us half as much in print. And I'm like, heck yeah, that's my person. So I need the all-star team. And that's just, you have to know yourself as a leader, as a business owner, and you need to know what complements you. And I can't babysit. I literally tell my team when we get on site, I'm not going to make time for you to eat and pee. That's on you. Let's just be real. Like I'm not monitoring that. There's a certain amount of if you're tired and you need a break, let me know. Go. I'm happy to enable that. If you need to go leave your station, go to the restroom, do whatever. It's just saying these are things that I expect from you as a team member, is that you've got to kind of have some ownership over what you need while you're here for the next 3 days. I am tunnel focused on trying to deliver with a lot of moving parts. And so, make sure you kind of manage that. So I think it's important to understand your own leadership strengths and weaknesses because I have them. I mean, that be brief, be brilliant, be gone. It's got me in a lot of trouble. The whole be gone and they go and do something and sign a contract. And I'm like, wait, what? Wait, what? They're like, Lynn, you told me to be gone. I left. I took the contract and ran with it. I'm like, oh, okay. So you have to understand your own style. I think that you can't replace passion. When I coached basketball for a lot of years, boys and girls, young sixth graders, and I would do the tryouts, and I literally was looking for the person who's going to dive out of bounds to try to get the ball. That hustle, like I'm not going to coach that guy on a proper jump shot. That guy's got what I want. I want to bottle it up and take it with me, and that guy's skin knees out of bounds. That's my guy or my gal. So is that? I'm open to feedback. Does that sound scary? I think generationally, we got some challenges, but I also say generationally, I have learned more from my millennials and even my Gen Zers than I ever thought I would. And I think the Xers and the Boomers who are pushing back on this next generation, you haven't found the right ones because the work ethic they display is amazing. Their creativity, their tenacity, their everything they bring, I welcome it. And we joke about, they give me a hard time. Oh, is this a Gen X moment? I'm like, yeah, go run lines. It is. So, so they know that, but I also embrace that they need some, real-time feedback. One gal, I mean, I try to do a debrief when they leave, and she was like, I just needed more of you to teach me this business. You were just running so hot. And I'm like, okay, well, you don't have to come with all the pieces and parts, but you do need to be able to get on my hip and build the plane while we're flying it and put a wing on. And if you have to understand, I'm not going to slow down enough to teach you to build the wing. We're kind of on this journey together. So what about you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it the same, honestly. Really. Yeah, I am borderline. I'm the last, yeah, I'm 79, tail end of 79. So, yeah, I'm kind of in the middle of both, but I do expect, my hope or my expectation is that people are going to come in and grab the reins and go because this industry does move fast. You don't, and especially today, I feel like after the pandemic, timelines are shorter, budgets are smaller, like everything's fast moving, it's harder, there's more challenges. And if you've got multiple events going on, you got to be able to hustle. I mean, there's just not enough hours in the day. And so I expect that as well. I do appreciate, though, when people are really honest about what they know and don't know. I love bringing people into my organization who are learning and who are in that process. I don't expect them to come in and always be an expert unless I'm bringing them in at a leadership level, of course. But if they're coming in to, let's say, plan events or, whatever that role is, I want that new perspective. I love when people come in and they're thinking about it in a totally different way and they're willing to challenge the business in those ways. My hope is that they'll spend some time in the beginning during that onboarding period to kind of get to know the way that we do it so that there's like a meshing of both. But I love the feedback. So people who are willing to speak up and share their ideas. And this kind of goes back to that whole relationship thing of the willingness to just grab time with me. If they're willing to just, hey, Hillary, can I just have 30 minutes of your time because I have this idea? Heck yeah. Like I want to hear it because that's how we all grow, right?
Absolutely. And so what are the top two skills that you think we need in this biz?
Oh God, in this biz. I mean, organization. Like you've got to you've got to have some level of organization. You've got to know how to manage a timeline, do the spreadsheet, be organized with the things that you're doing, and being able to juggle a lot. I also think that another skill is that thinking on your toes and being able to respond quickly, almost like in almost like emergent situations, like maybe testing yourself with how do I handle that if I'm in an emergent situation? Am I someone that reacts and kind of grabs and takes charge and is okay with it, or do I just like panic and run around like a crazy person because I'm scared? That's gonna be hard on the go live moment and things aren't going right because that's gonna happen. You've got to have the thick skin and the ability to really deal with it and handle it because you have to expect that things are going to go wrong. I've heard actually a lot of that today in the sessions, over the last 2 days in conversations just about, I mean, we just went through the pandemic. It's a perfect example. It's like we all had to kind of react and think on our toes and figure that out. That's a critical part. It's what our clients are paying us to do.
Yeah, they're paying for peace of mind, and if you can't emote peace of mind in a crisis situation, this might not be the gig for you, or maybe there's a back of house gig where you don't have to be okay with the client and tell them, yes, I know the lobby's on fire, where it's going to be fine. You do have to, and I think decision making skills, anytime you can show me that if I'm just meeting you and you want to be in the business and try to, impress upon me your ability to be in this trench with all of us, it would be that decision making ability. One time when I was at college, and again, the cops came at our frat party and blah, blah, and then what happened? And what was your decision making process? And I always tell my team, if you can defend your decision making process, I'm never going to be mad at you. You might have had bad intel that informed the not quite right decision, but if you can defend it, well, this is what I was thinking, that we are out of shrimp and that okay, so what other things do we have? How many people have not eaten? Here was my decision process, so I decided to go ahead and go with peanut butter and jelly. I'm down for you. I will ride. We are going to sell the heck out of PB&J. But I'm going to say, we shouldn't have served PB&J. There could have been chicken back there. So I'm going to course correct, but I do need to understand your decision-making ability, particularly when something might be on fire. And not literally, we're not saving lives, but something that is a critical moment. You have to have those analytical skills to be able to assess. And that's, I always say, creative and resourceful. The creative for me is, what are our other options? Think of that computer going off. Okay, we're out of shrimp. What are our other options? Again, how long do we have to serve? How many more people? And then it's that resourceful. We'll do this. Call Panera. Have them deliver 50 more boxes of this. That'll look kind of like the chicken. We'll take it to the back. We'll put it on the buffet. We'll make it look like it was chicken we planned for. Like, what is that resourceful mode that you can be in to come up with some because this is a crazy business, people. I don't know if you guys know that yet, but you are put in some crazy situations, and it's super fun. I'm going to write my memoirs at some point with all the craziness that happened, but it's just, I had a text from my intern. I was at an event in Phoenix. My team was in New York, and she texts me, "You're not going to believe it, ... And so I'm with the team member, and I go, this, what is she like joking me right now? The next picture I got was a picture of our lead bartender getting pulled out of the venue by New York Fire Department because she was drunk. The lead bartender. And so then I look at it and I'm like, no, this is fake, like fake news. What? She's just trying to get a rise out of me because she knows I'm in Phoenix. And she was like, well, here's, she was literally like, this happened? I'm like, this never happened to me. What are you talking about? The lead bartender was drinking. She's drunk. She passed out. Fire department's here. I'm just like, okay, if you're serious, call me immediately. And then I was like, where is she located? Get her out of the main room. Get a timestamp of when this happened. Make sure you have, the fire department copy of the pickup receipt. Make sure. I'm firing like 20 things for her to do to like document. And she was just like, has this ever happened to you? I'm like, a drunk bartender? No. I'm going to go with a hard no. 30 years. You learn something new every day. Maybe we should write a clause into our caterer to make sure people don't drink when they're here. We're trying to pay you to make sure that our guests don't get overserved, and here this happens. So there's never a dull moment. And, that's why it's hard to kind of tell you what you should train for. You know what I mean? If like you're doing a 5K, you're like, okay, I got it. I'm going to have to pump out a good 3-something miles. I'm going to train for this. I'm going to go get my education. I'm going to have some good shoes. It's not really any hidden secret behind this thing, you guys. It's good common sense, quick decision-making skills, staying calm, having a good time, laughing about it. We have a war room at every event where I literally can bust through the door and drop a lot of different words and then come out and say the right thing to the client. My team knows, get Lynn in the war room. She's about to blow. Because, and then you you gather yourself, you come back out. My team loves to watch. Like one time we had this huge vendor issue. They didn't deliver on a Wi-Fi network for a tech event. It was ugly. And I was taken prisoners. It was ugly. Not in a personal way, but like I told my team, get on my hip because this is a really hard, courageous conversation that you're going to probably have to have sometime in your career. Here we go. This is not about Dave, the tech guy, but here are the things that didn't perform. Here are the things, here's the compensation we want. And they're like, you're so always so animated. And when you're about to throw down, it is just like super staccato, factual. We're going to not pay for any of this Wi-Fi. And my young event planners just like, heads are rolling and they don't even know it. This guy is just terrified. But again, it wasn't personal. I said to him, you're lovely. You're doing a great job. I appreciate you as an event partner. This doesn't work for us. This is what we're going to do. And having that kind of commanding, you're going to be put in a tough situation. So work, flex, and work on your courageous conversation skills. Stay factual. Don't make it personal, and be solution focused of what's going to happen. I don't know. Any other thing you want to add to that?
Yeah, that's actually a really, I love what you just said too, is that difficult conversation component. I used to be terrible at difficult conversations because I'm a people pleaser. And so I always felt like I needed to be the yes person and that's just not reality. So the quicker that you can get comfortable with the difficult conversation and, kind of get into your rhythm of how am I going to approach people, it's all about the preparation, I think, going into that and really thinking methodically about it. I mean, I've actually gone as far as role playing with people before I have the conversation, just to kind of get it out and work through the kinks because it's not always easy. I can do it now, no problem. I think it's like everything else, it takes practice. But I remember in those early days, because there's going to be times when you have to do that, and the worst are when the hardest for me are with my own employees, and then also with my customers. It's always challenging to be able to have to go to your client and tell them something failed, something didn't work out, whatever that is. So having that in your toolkit while you're building up your resume, or the skill sets and the things that I would definitely put that one in there. I think that the difficult conversation piece is critical because it's going to come, you're going to need it. So having the readiness for it, I think, is really smart.
And it also comes with experience, right? I mean, my gal that was in New York dealing with that crisis situation had been on my hip when I told the Wi-Fi guy we're not paying. All that she was watching me and how I was approaching it, and she had her own confidence enough to say, "Get her out of the venue. This is what you need to do." Like, she was staying calm, but she was taking those prompts from me. And so learning from mentors about, oh my gosh, they didn't pay you, or oh my gosh, it broke. Have you ever had to tell anybody it broke? How'd you phrase that thing? Let me know. I'd like to use some key talking points about this thing is broke. I want to leave lots of time for Q&A. I know we're getting, how are we doing? 12. Oh yeah, we got about 15 minutes. Okay, so who wants to know what from an event prof? Oren, you know everything there is. What do you want to know about your boss?
Do you want to repeat the question?
The question was, there's kind of two roads, putting a fork here. One is if you work in an agency and you do a lot of different client work, and one is if you're in-house as a corporate event planner. Is that right? Yeah. What are the pros and cons of those two career options? You want to start?
I can start. I've really only been on the agency side of things, but I have so many friends throughout my career who have moved over to the client side and done it more of like that internal event planning. I think that if you're on that side of the fence, because you have that support system as the buyer, like you've got the people around you that are kind of helping to support at the top, whatever that event is, and the decision making around it. And then you're bringing people in under to make it all happen and execute. That's a certain type of mindset and approach. I personally couldn't picture myself in that position because I'm such a service-based person. Like, it's just in my nature. And so I really get energized and I thrive off of that service relationship. So being on the agency side, I love being able to hear my client's vision and figuring out how to translate that into the successful event and making that happen and having that, plan and building it out. I can't picture myself being on the other side of it where I'm kind of up here and then having other people execute on that, because it's just not natural to me. It's just not where I fall in. So I'm sure as you're hearing that, everyone's kind of, you're thinking about yourself and where do you see yourself in that? So I think it's kind of a, which side do you like to be on? And I've seen, like I said, I've seen people move over and hop over that fence and they hated it. I've seen them really have a hard time with it because it is a different type of work on a day-to-day basis. And I've seen them transition back into kind of more on the supplier side and the agency side, being the creators of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I use the analogy of the construction business. So if our job oftentimes as the planner is the general contractor, right? And I'm going to hire a great wall and ceiling person, a good flooring person, a good deck builder, landscape architect, right? That's me as the general contractor. And if your nature is to go ahead and create a home from the ground up and decide all of those things, that's in the agency world. If you want to work for modernhomes.com and every home has the same wood floor and the same thing and you're just executing that plan. I do a lot of work for Chase Bank as kind of a hired gun. When I get to go in and work with them, they'll call me on a gig and they're like, we're so worn out from just the Chase way of all we have to do is remember where to put the Pentagon or the Octagon logo. Like we're in the grind of corporate, this is how we do these kinds of events. And they're always so excited about, what are you working on? Oh, I just finished an event for the Assistance Dogs International. It's the people who train the dog. And they're like, what? And I'm just bank after bank after bank event, right? So there is, I think if you love the company, you align with their values and you want to create for them and work for barneshomes.com and make it the best barneshome.com experience you can, great. If you want to start from scratch on an empty piece of dirt and try to figure out how to get the right players to build it up, that's analogy I would use on that. What's better suited for your personality, your skill set? Yeah.
Internal event planner at a nonprofit. Do you think there's any value in getting this CMP that you mentioned the other day? And my second question is, to stay organized and on task and with all the different events that you guys run at the same time, is there any software that you guys really like or utilize?
Yes to the designation of CMP or whichever one you get, because what it is, if you're not going to go get a doctorate in event planning, it is a trade designation that indicates a certain base level of knowledge. And it is instant credibility when you're talking to people that you've been through that exam, that you've gone through the vocabulary book that's this high, and you know what a lanai is and how much to tip the bellman because you've learned that chapter of gratuity. That's the one I failed, by the way. My team jokes, I just tip everyone. But yes, that testing process will challenge your knowledge in this industry. And again, it's credibility for those who know. So I would pursue it. It's also really fun. And the people you meet in the study group, I would highly recommend the study group. They're your fast peers in this business because they're going through it with you. And I know my CMP study group, any of the 6 of them I could call for anything because we went through that little battle together. Yeah. So there's certified meeting professional, there's certified special event professional. You guys are going to have to help me out. There's a lot of certification in the nonprofit world. Certified nonprofit business developer. So look for the one that most aligns with what your skills that you're doing every day.
CMP though is kind of the one.
It's a little overarching.
Overarching, right?
Yeah. What do you think about? We talked a little bit about the 2 scenarios, but what about her question of? So she said designation, and what was the other question?
Tools.
Oh.
I'm such a tech person. I love the tools. My new boss would definitely vouch for that because it's like all I've talked to her about. So at my company for many, many years, Microsoft is a big customer of ours. And so because we were a preferred vendor, we had access to their Office suite. So many years we just used the typical spreadsheet approach, right? Just whatever we could. I think at one point we played with Project and that was just too much for us. But about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we decided to take the leap into project management tools. And we did, as a company, my team kind of did all the research. It took about 6 months by the time we actually landed on something. And as a business owner, I was very concerned because they're expensive, right? It's an investment. I was like, dang, I'm getting my whole team trying this thing out. We're doing all these different demos, vetting them. Um, so I'm just going to say, first of all, my favorite tool that we landed on is Asana. I absolutely love it. It's fantastic. It is so user friendly. Like you get in there and you just right away you can start using it. You don't need much training. But what I will say holistically about that tool conversation, and I can speak about this because I've been through it as a business owner, it will save you time and money across your entire organization. And the way that your team, I actually saw my own team elevate the way that they managed events and approached their customers and looked at the organizational system as a whole just through adopting this tool. So it is an investment up front, so you have to be willing to look at that, but it's worth it. The end game, it brings so many benefits to the organization as a whole and to your clients. We also use Harvest is another one, and that's a great time tracking tool. It has really great reporting built into it. Oren, help me out. Is there another one you would mention? Yeah. So Harvest, Asana, and we use HubSpot for all of our like marketing and sales efforts. We prefer that over Salesforce. Although I love Salesforce, we had that and it was just too robust as a small company. We didn't use all the features and paid way too much for it. So HubSpot has been a great solution for us because again, these are all very user friendly. That's so important to me. I don't want my team to have to spend 3 months trying to get to know the system.
That's
It
so
shouldn't
funny.
make your job harder. Like
Yeah.
you need the tool to make your job easier and actually feel like you're growing because of it. It should, and those tools exist.
One thing on that tool thing that's such an important thing is that it also is such a value to invest in a tool that was designed to do something well versus tools that you're trying to do 50. You're trying to use one tool to do your CRM and your accounting and your project management and your time tracking. There is stuff you can do, and sometimes you can engineer those tools, but you get so much efficiency when you get tools to do just project management. And we use HubSpot for our CRM and stuff. So anyway, that was my 2 cents on tools.
Well, it's so funny because I hate Asana is the bane of my existence.
Have you used it recently?
Every day.
You use it
Yeah, I'm in it
now?
every day. I have a client, and if that Asana lady tells me one more time I'm late on doing a honeydew, yeah, Erin and I are not on good terms. So I use it. I would say your project management tool is like a diet. It works if you work it. The team has to buy in. Whatever it is, Monday.com, blah, 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 Google Excel. For 30 years, I've planned millions of dollar events on a Google Excel sheet. So it works if you work it, if your team commits. You are a grapefruit diet person who loves Asana.
I
I hate
do.
grapefruit. I'm not Asana bound.
So I have a question about this though. So what about
Gotta dig into this
the
over-
reporting aspect of it and all of that? Because you can't with the spreadsheet, you're limited, right? It's like project by project versus being able to.
I have fine-tuned that little Excel document of mine. It's pretty robust. I know, yeah, a report, you get what you pay for. Like same thing, like with a diet or whatever. If you're gonna go and be at Orange Theory, you're gonna get rocked out. It's great. If you do it, it's fine, and it does serve that purpose. If you know you're not an Orange Theory gal and I just want to do some yoga, like you have to understand what your team and your project needs and then put the right diet on it. So, I mean, I have a client that uses Basecamp. They're in there, all of them, every day. I hate Basecamp. I
do
cannot
too.
be
I don't like
confined.
that one
I don't
either.
need a project
Yeah.
management software. I just want my Excel sheet to just check off my list. I've learned. I mean, in Google Excel, the Google Sheets is improved so much in the last couple of years that it's given us a lot more flexibility. But I guess I would just say that, if you're a nonprofit, small office, it's you do what you like. Perfect.
Yeah.
And do the research, find the one that matches with you, and you're like, I will work this. If I get myself a little tracker of my walker watch, that's my jam. I love accountability. I will do this. When Asana pings me, you haven't done this, it irritates me. I'm like, I know.
Oh, turn the notifications off. I do. That's what I do.
I did, and then they were like, did you get that done on time? I'm like, no, because I completely blocked Asana. I unfollowed Asana. Okay, any other final questions for us? Yeah. I have one. I want to hear a really cool story about you. I want to know that you were the one in the family that always remembered to bring the frisbee. That it's your natural skill set to go through a mental checklist and make sure there's diaper rash ointment in the bag. Like I want to know that you're wired to be organized, be creative, be resourceful. If you tell me one time, I had to build a tree house for my kids and I went and instead of using this, I used this, I'd be like, creative, check. Resourceful, what? Okay, give me a story about that. Give me a story about, again, a good decision making. And on a fast experience, I was in the carpool lane and this kid ran out and I had to, I had to decide whether to take him out or not. Whatever. Like, tell me something. Let me understand a scenario that relates to what we do and how you rocked it. And then I will feel connected to you. I don't want to know, well, I managed a $37,000 budget. I want to know about you. I love this business. This is why I love it. I love that I get to see the widget be used. I told that story yesterday, you guys, about being in this industry. And, some people make a widget and send it down the line, they never get to see it be used. My favorite thing about this business is we get to create a widget, we get to watch them use a widget. And it's a moment that you just never forget. So I want to understand what widgets you've built and how you felt when you were watching it and those kinds of things. So I would just say, what I'm impressed with is an authentic personal story that shows me you're fired up, you got the natural gift of things. I can train you to work in Excel, Google Sheets. Not Asana. I can't train you on that.
I would say on the resume side of things, I agree, including some kind of personal story or description, and that, you always have that opportunity at the top, right, to just be you and make that a little less formulaic, because that's, to me, what the capabilities and skills and stuff are for, the bullet list. Keep it brief. I mean, if I have a job posting and I get 50 applications, like the long ones, that's hard. That's really hard. I think finding a way to summarize what you're capable of in you got to shorten it up. The other thing I would say, as far as like the interview goes, I would say I love that, what you talked about. Like, the more human that we can get throughout the conversation, way better, because we're all service people. So I want to know how you're going to show up in conversations with people. And I think the other thing, I love when people ask me questions and they challenge me and they've done their homework on my company. If they have some understanding of what Evia is, where we came from, anything, like, just show me that you've at least been to the website at a minimum.
100%.
Because you'd be shocked at how many people don't. They just they don't even do that research. So I think that's really critical. The other thing I would say is punctuality. Holy smokes. I mean, that's the other thing I've always been floored about, is the people that either just flat out don't show up. And we make note of that. Like, we know who that person was that just didn't even send an email to say, I'm so sorry, because it's a waste of our time. So I understand things come up and maybe you're not even interested in the job anymore. Just tell me, because I don't want to be spending 15 minutes waiting on Zoom or whatever. So, and maybe that's more of a COVID thing, because otherwise it was in person before. But yeah, the punctuality thing I think is really critical.
So who still wants to be an event prof after our session? Anybody want to be brief, be brilliant? And well, then be gone. Go enjoy the show. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
you,
you.
Hillary, for joining me.
Thanks, Lynn.
Have a great show. Have a great, long, prosperous career. Let me know how we can help.
Yeah, reach out. We're on LinkedIn. We're always happy to answer questions or help.